How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to another one of my update notes, patch notes video. Today we're covering the Gleaming Depths update. Excited for this one. We got some goodies to look forward to, and they're mentioning it is the largest change to the Fallout 76 endgame experience. Very excited for this. I admittedly have tried to keep an eye away from any, PTS content or any sneak peek of the raid before it came out. I think it's going to be a challenge. I think it's going to test some of our builds, how versatile we could be, but we'll get into that soon enough. So for today's update, some of the highlights that we have: the Gleaming Depths Raid, the 4-star legendary items that are now added to the game, player titles, and camp pets. Starting off with the Gleaming Depths. The Gleaming Depths Raid is a new endgame activity designed to be faced by a party of 4 highly leveled and geared players. Each encounter will require your party to work together to overcome unique co-op mechanics to overcome the bosses within. These bosses may also punish some type of character builds, and we're sure you'll figure out which builds are more advantageous for each fight. So I feel like there may be moments where a little extra damage from being bloodied may be useful, but overall, somebody like myself who has more, red in my bar from radiation than anything else is going to have to pull back a little bit. Before this update, I've personally switched from unyielding to overeaters in preparation for the raid and seeing how else I can kind of utilize my build, even utilize legendary crafting to craft new weapons, armor for this raid. But they're mentioning a few things here. They're saying unlike daily ops and expeditions, which can be cleared solo if you have the correct build, the Gleaming Depths will require you and your squad to take on unique roles during the encounters and communicate with each other. To help facilitate communication, we've also introduced a contextual ping system to allow those who may not feel comfortable with being on voice comms to assist the team. When pointed towards a target, the ping system will mark a hostile and friendly targets, points of interest, and containers. I like that. I feel like more games should have some sort of ping system, at least. We can now utilize this, I imagine, ping system outside of Gleaming Depths, so if we ever need to let people know, I guess your teammates would see it. I don't know if anybody in a public server would see it, so we'll find out soon. When designing this activity, the team laid out 5 core features that will make raids different than other repeatable content. Now this is what they're saying it's going to make it stand out. It's going to require teamwork versus other things that, teamwork is encouraged but not necessarily required. There's plenty of content that people, I guess, could solo, and even daily ops in that regard. It will challenge endgame builds, so I'm not sure what their threshold of saying, like, hey, maybe wait until you're 100, 200, you have a better, I guess, grasp on your build, or if you have the opportunity to have some armor made or weapons made for, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what exactly they mean by endgame builds. It's going to have a unique boss fight, no time gating, and high value rewards. We've covered the first 3 bullet points in the opening paragraphs, now let's cover the last 2. No time gating. Raids can be completed back to back without having to wait for a reset timer. If you complete the raid, you get rewards. This is important because completing raid encounters will be your primary source of 4-star legendary mods and items, as well as other raid related rewards such as new player titles. And we'll get into new player titles here in a sec. A reminder before you go, the Gleaming Depths is intended to be challenging. A part of the challenge will be staying alive because your team will not be able to revive you until the encounter is finished. In success, we hope. Don't worry though, you can use your downtime to view the fight, so you have a little spectator mode, and then that'll allow you to get a new strategy when you get revived or try again. It says also make sure you utilize the new raid public team before entering the raid. This will give your team a weapon durability buff that will only work in the Gleaming Depths. I would argue that maybe something like the Explorer, I think? Public team that gives you endurance or something. Part of me feels like going in with more health would be more beneficial, because you could probably repair your weapon with improved kits before going in, and there's different stages, so each time just make sure you repair. I would encourage endurance, whichever that one is. I'm pretty sure it's like Explorer, but they do have a new team. And now we have 4-star legendary items like we were just mentioning. I'm excited for that. And then they're not only gonna drop from the raid, but they're also mentioning that there's a chance for them to drop from 4-star legendary creatures that'll spawn around Appalachia. That I'm excited for. That says, to give you an idea of new mods that await, here's a 4-star legendary mod from the Weapon, Power Armor, and Armors category. For weapons, they're talking about an effect that has critical hits restore 5% of health and AP for players and teammates within a 50-foot radius. I like that. I like the idea of kind of like, not necessarily buffing your teammates, but having the ability to impact your teammates. So like obviously medics has gotten better, and then you can even, let's say, use certain perks and share certain perks that if you heal yourself next to a teammate, they also get healed. I think now putting this on a weapon's a pretty good idea, and then a 50-foot radius is a pretty good distance, I think, to heal. Let's see when we if we get any of these, and if we're running like an encrypted, like how close do you really need to be to somebody? Could you be on opposite ends, different pylons? We'll have to wait and see. For the power armor, they're saying AP cost of VATS, specifically power armor. AP cost of VATS attacks reduced by 5% up to 25% on a full stack, so each of those power armor pieces could have that, bringing up to less, more or less where you'd be at for a weapon. So instead of having less VATS on a weapon, you could move it onto your armor and then swap that legendary mod out for something else, giving you even more options, I guess, for your build and your gear. And last, for armor, melee weapons deal 5% bonus damage up to 25% on a full stack. So melee builds are gonna be fun, especially with, I feel like, ghouls and melee builds. And with some of these little updates they're doing here and there, specifically buffing different melee abilities, melee weapons. There are some updates we'll get to a little later. I'm excited for this. Alright, on to camp pets. It says, say hello to 2 new fuzzy friends who will help bring your camp to life. We're excited to bring camp pets to Fallout 76, starting with a cat and a dog, and yes, you can pet them. You can find your camp pet in the newly updated Dwellers Workshop tab, and spawn them in. You'll have a cat bed, a dog house. You'll have different ways to interact with these pets. I'm very curious to see if that's gonna mean we'll have pets in the future. One of the conversations we had in the community was like, will there be boss pets? And the idea of like thinking of like MMOs that you might have to defeat a boss a certain amount of times, and there's a point whatever % drop rate of potentially getting another pet. Maybe in a year from now we'll have Scorch Beast pets, little mini bats flying around our camp. I think this this could be interesting. I could imagine there being seasonal rewards geared specifically towards pets. Obviously, we do have some of those now with this new season, but I think it'll be more than just a cat and a dog. I think in the future, who knows, maybe a mini Ogwa. Time will tell. We'll have to just wait and see. And they do say there will be more pets in the future, and to keep an eye out, so looking forward to that. Alright, so moving on to player titles. I compare this to anybody that's played Diablo 4 recently. You can throw in different prefixes, suffixes, and have a different kind of title for your character. I'm very curious to see how many they add. I think Diablo's, mine was like Distracted Collector or Distracted Wanderer or something like that. We'll see if we can have something similar while we're in Appalachia. And then some of those player titles will come from participating in public events, limited time events, main quests, seasons, and then the Gleaming Depths will also have its own set of titles as well. So we're gonna have to probably run Gleaming Depths a certain amount of times to get these titles. We'll see. I'm not sure if it explicitly shows you the way to unlock them. Alright, so we got Season 19, Scientific Forge. Looking forward to that. This one's themed around the Enclave and the paramilitary organization, they're calling it. We're gonna be we're gonna be revisiting Modus. So it's interesting because I remember having conversation with friends about, could Modus make a return? Was Modus getting stronger over time? Collecting little information here and there. It also makes sense that we've had these Enclave events for a while now too. So it's almost like Modus is building up resources for something. I don't know. Maybe that kind of gets tied into the season. Looking forward to that. We have some new Mutated public events. They're adding 5 more. We got Campfire Tales, Free Range, Project Paradise, Beast of Burden, and Safe and Sound. The irony is, right before loading this video, I popped into my private server just to kind of move some stuff around, and Moonshine Jamboree popped up at the top of the hour for a Mutated event. And I thought that was hilarious that we got 5 new events. And out of all the events that could have spawned, it was Moonshine Jamboree. And I wasn't obviously going to solo that, nor would I want to run that for the next 3 hours. That's an inside joke. People get it. In any case, I'm looking forward to these. It'll give me more of an excuse to run Campfire Tales, Free Range. Pretty sure that's what, 3 or 5 legendary modules, something like that. So we've been trying to run that. Project Paradise will run every once in a while. Beast of Burden is a common occurrence, speaking of Ogwas. And then Safe and Sound. I think all these are pretty solid to add to the list. I fear that if they added like distinguished guests as a Mutated event, I probably still wouldn't run it. But who knows? Maybe that's just me. Alright, we got some perk cards that are being balanced. There's a few of these. I'm going to skip through some of these, but highlight some that I think are important. I will make sure that the link to these notes is available too, or feel free to just kind of pause the video as we go through some of these. I do want to point out batteries included. It goes ranks reduced from 3 to 2. Ranks 1 will now offer 45% weight reduction, and 2 will offer 90% weight reduction. So they kind of truncated how that worked to give you a point back. Bullet shield moved from strength to endurance, and they added a 4th rank. New effect, 5% chance per rank to deflect range attack for 6 seconds when firing a heavy weapon. I haven't really used a heavy weapon build slash heavy weapon character in a bit, but I have been every once in a while using like a plasma caster or, dare I say, a pepper shaker. So who knows, maybe I gotta throw in some bullet shield too. We got evasive. Evasive was reduced from 3 to 1, and then now increases evade chance based on agility. Good to know. Hard bargain. Reduced ranks from 3 to 1, and now the rank 1 now grants 7 charisma while bartering with NPCs. And it kind of makes sense too, because some of these could be simpler. Some of these could be simpler, and I'm a fan of reducing some of the costs from 3 to 1, because some of them might be a quick swap from one loadout to the next, but some of these will be a part of your build, and you might be able to get a couple points. Who knows? Had somebody in the community say they got 8 points back by keeping the same exact build. I'm curious to see how many points I get back. Interested in knowing others in the community if maybe you're able to get enough points to almost feel like you got, well, compared to a legendary perk card, giving you extra perks to spend. Alright, we'll read out a few more of these again. Feel free to go through these and see how it impacts maybe your build. I think some of these are still important. It also looks like a lot of these are being adjusted or even moved from one perk category to the next. Let's jump down to Serendipity. Actually, no, Life Giver first, and then Serendipity. Life Giver, again, reducing it from 3 to 1. It's going to give us a few more points back for those that are using Life Giver. New effect improves HP gained from Endurance. So I like how they're making these scale to the appropriate special stat, whether it's Endurance or Agility. Serendipity, ranks reduced from 3 to 1. A new effect says now increases evade chance while under 30% life based on luck. Evade provides a chance to avoid all incoming damage from direct attacks, and then evade can only happen once every second, and now the cooldown is increased by armor. So now it's interesting because you can't. Let me mention that it also cannot happen when you're over encumbered or while in power armor. Some of the breakdown here is talk about the following rates: light armor, medium, and heavy. We may have to swap around some of our build just so we could have some of that proc more often. Interesting. Now I'm going to be looking for a light armor set. Starch Jeans. I feel like Starch Jeans is an easy one for everybody to get a couple points back. Well, not even a couple, but to get an easy point back, it's going from rank 2 to 1, and then it's moved from luck to endurance. I like that I'm going to have more stuff to spend in the luck tree. And then rank 1 now provides the benefits of the former rank 2. Good to know. And again, I am hopping around mentioning a few that I think are worth highlighting. Feel free to browse around, see if any of these are impacting you. I feel like everybody logging in is going to have some points back, or will be getting some points back moving things around. Yeah, happy building your characters, working on your loadouts. I know after this, I'm going to be also doing that. Alright, so adjustments to Explosion VFX. This is this was a welcome sight. It says we've reduced the radius in which screen flash effects appear from a multitude of explosions throughout the game. This is a purely visual change and does not impact the radius in which damage is dealt. And I will mention this is going to be very useful for those close spaces, close quarters, whatever you want to call them. Rad rumble, down the hallway you have somebody using a Fat Man launcher, can't see anything. I feel like I get the feeling it's still going to be not the best to see something like that for those that may enjoy blowing some stuff up. You know, it might not be as bad. We'll try to look at some sort of positive side on that. Again, there's going to be a multitude of weapons that are impacted. I would like to highlight the Fat Man and the Fat Man Merv. Is going to have reduced I get the feeling it's still going to be bad, but it's going to have reduced Explosion VFX. Let's see. They also talk about NPCs being in the same situation. NPC weapons and environmental effects, other various sources are all being adjusted so that they're not as, we'll call them vibrant. Vibrant and blinding. Combat balance. I'm going to mention a few of these here. The cooldown of evade effects now scales based on how much damage was avoided. The durability of armor has been increased. That's awesome. Slightly increase the chance to learn to craft the weapon mods via scrapping. And I know some people were mentioning, wait a second, does that mean you can, is that legendary mods? And I know people were thinking, myself included, maybe we'd be able to learn some mods just a little bit more often, but nope, this is for weapon mods. So again, anybody that remembers them increasing the ability to learn, let's say, radium rifle mods, because the radium rifle had for a while like it was just super rare to get certain things, and I know I had the silencer mod very early on in the game, and people told me that was a rare thing to had unlocked early on, and I know not terribly long ago they updated it, so now this is like another pass, and not just a specific weapon, but more weapons, giving you the ability to unlock more mods. What else we got? Reduce the damage of the auto axe from 31 to 24. Gotta test that out to see if, am I swapping to the chainsaw now? Am I sticking to the auto axe? And then again, I'm skipping around a couple of these, so you may want to just make sure, for example, the Zweinhinder, the V63 isn't something you're using. Onto armor. Brotherhood, Recon, and Secret Service are now classified as heavy armor. Okay, so, oh boy, I was using Secret Service, and then if I want to use, what, a jetpack, I would use Secret Service. If I'm using a light armor, I'm getting ahead of myself, hold on, we'll get to there. Medium armors are now going to be Civil Engineer, Arctic Marine, Marine Armor, and Trapper Armors. And now the light armors that I guess I wouldn't be able to put a jetpack on would be Covert Scout, Solar Armor that I'm thinking of messing with again, Thorn Armor, Urban Scout that I have collections of, Forest Scout, same thing. I'm not swapping back to Wood Armor. Now those are all light armors. Curious. Might have to work on a few different things just to have certain perks, let's say proc. Botsmith armor is also classified as heavy armor now, okay. So now weapons, this is going to be a pleasant sight, but they're saying we've made changes to damage and AP costs for many weapons, which primarily focuses on improving cases where weapons don't perform well enough to meet players' expectations. And I'm a big fan of buffing up and not nerfing down when it comes to making more weapons viable, more builds viable. Try to see how you can do a little bit of all that, and they're doing that on the perk end, they're doing that on the weapon end, and I'm happy about this. And they do mention a couple times throughout the notes that it's like an ongoing process and they need to keep chipping away and seeing how they can fix it, or at least adjust certain things. For the damage buffs, I'll say there's plenty of weapons mentioned here. Definitely scroll through, see how your weapons were impacted. A lot of goodies here. And then the same thing for AP cost reductions. Talk about all the different AP costs for these specific weapons here. Weapon mod adjustments. So this is for various laser weapons. It says adjust the damage of the following beta gamma laser mods. Mentions the mods. While these weapons are still being evaluated for overall balance, these particular mods overshot the current target for fire damage mods, especially when taking into account the recent adjustments to creature health and resistances, and are being brought in line with similar mods for other weapons. This will allow for more consistency among weapons and mods when making future changes. Again, they're keeping the future in sight, and at least talking about how it's a process, and they want to make everything kind of viable. Obviously nobody wants something nerfed down, but considering there's a gigantic list of stuff that got buffed in one way or another, even if it seems small, that is good. It's good news. Alright, humanish creatures and weapon balance. Creatures that previously used player weapons, Blood Eagles, Cultists, the Lost, Mole Miners, Raiders, Scorch, Super Mutants, will now use NPC versions of their weapons, with balance adjustments to account for this change. Saying when defeating these enemies, when defeated, these enemies will have a chance to drop the base version of their weapon alongside some junk items. When a weapon isn't dropped, the enemy will instead drop more junk items that players can scrap to make up for the lost components you would receive from scrapping these weapons. Okay, that's good. Thoughtful. Increases have also been made to the components earned from scrapping many junk items in the world, so now you'll also have more components at your disposal. More resources, okay. More is better now. Alright, what else we got here? We have also increased the rate at which you learn mods from scrapping weapons by 10% to account for the lower number of weapons you'll find from these NPCs. This increase will not affect your chance to learn legendary weapon mods. Thank you for explicitly saying that. Because I had a few people prior to the update mention it, and I was like, I personally wait until the day of the update notes to really think of any of this as concrete. Until then, a lot of stuff that I hear, as far as I'm concerned, may be rumors or just hopeful, wishful thinking. All I heard was somebody in the community say, hey, we're going to have a higher chance to learn mods maybe, or legendary mods, and I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. I'll put some weapons aside and not break it down. But again, not the case here. All creatures previously using player weapons, Blood Eagles, Cultists, Lost Miners, Lost Mole Miners, Raiders, Scorch, Super Mutant, says weapon damage now scales to level 100, and there are a few different notes here breaking that down. Resistance differentiated between Blood Eagles, Cultists, and Raiders, and now rely more on health as the primary driver of survivability rather than resistances. Okay, makes sense. So instead of them having like super high damage resist, pull back on their damage resist and just kind of give them more health. Makes sense. Okay. saying dev note resistances are being used to differentiate damage types rather than a substitute for health. Are being used or were being used? This has the side benefit of showing higher damage numbers when attacking these creatures, which more closely match the weapon being used, rather than a substitute for health. I feel like I'm interpreting this differently. That's right. Creature balances. We have a few different creature balances in the mix between floaters, the freezers, the floater flamers, the floater nasher, alien invader, lesser devil, bloodbug. I will mention the thrasher. The thrasher has some interesting updates. Increased melee attack damage, especially at higher levels. Decreased sonic gobble attack at lower levels, and now weakness to fire damage and resistant to radiation energy and poison damage. Oh my. Careful with that Thrasher. Alright, we're gonna jump on down for accessibility. People logging in will notice something new popping up on the screen, and that's gonna be a few different things. It'll give you options for speech to text, screen narration, and UI navigation. I'm curious to know if Microsoft had any, let's say, here's some accessibility to the accessibility category, and maybe they helped them out with some of these things. I'm not sure. Very curious. But that was the update notes. We're going to be getting into the next set of fixes. We have improvements and fixes here next. This was just the beginning, so that's all the content that we have to look forward to. But now, in terms of all the things that we might have been looking forward to being fixed, looking forward to being adjusted and other things, there's a whole other category for that. So we have another set of notes. It's the Gleaming Depths improvements and fixes release notes. We got stability improvements, and they even say the release note fun continues in our Gleaming Depths improvements and fixes article. I almost missed this, and this is pretty lengthy in its own way too, so we're gonna highlight a few important things here, and then again be sure to browse through the article, make sure nothing slips through that you might be interested in. But we're jumping on down. We have stability improvements. The Gleaming Depths update brings various stability improvements to the game across all platforms, including some speculative changes to improve the stability on PlayStation. This change should address several memory-related shutdowns. Good to hear for those on PlayStation. Please continue to share your experience with us, etc., etc. Best builds. So fix some issues related to best build name tags, and correct tags were not being displayed. Camps and workshops. A couple things I'll call out. They fixed an issue for those trying to place the Triumph Terrace. Apparently the Foundation was having issues, and then something similar with the Raiders Lodge. But if you had the Hunter's Lodge placed, apparently that was causing an issue. I'm not sure. So they fixed that. They fixed a couple other things for camps and a workshop. I'm gonna jump on down to Caravans. I'm gonna call out a few things that I think a few of us were looking forward to things being patched. A few adjustments here and there. Alright, so we have fixed pathing issues across some caravan routes. That's good because I'm sure a few of us have seen some of those routes include Brahmin going down the road and then completely turning around, going up a hill, climbing a mountain, and then going all the way around. That happened quite a few times. So let's see if that was fixed. Fixed an issue where players were unable to craft or build certain rewards after learning their corresponding recipes. Fixed an issue with vendor inventories not refreshing after upgrade without re-entering the milepost 0 interior. So instead of making you have to leave, come back to refresh things, that should be fixed now. We have players no longer drop loot bags when dying during the caravan. So they're treating it like a public event. When you go to a public event, if you die during the public event, you're not dropping the loot bag. Same thing here. Makes sense. Fix the bug causing caravans to run endlessly around Skyline Drive. We also had that happen a few times. I think the most I ever had to do was maybe like 3 laps, and then it counted on the 3rd lap. I'm not sure what we did to fix that, or if it was just RNG and it worked on it. I have no idea. So that's good. One and done. The following caravan encounters now appear at the appropriate difficulty options: super mutants, mole miners, and the broken down caravan. Encounter locations are now appearing correctly on the map. That's very important. Cryptids now correctly spawn and are not running away during encounters. Encounters now spawn correctly after being selected from the caravan manager. And fix the bug where a bump in the road could not be tracked via the paper map. So you're over there looking for it and you can't even find it. Alright, on down to food and items. We'll skip on down to the last couple. Perishable items should no longer decay while in a vendor's inventory. As I read that, I think to myself, should I put, instead of placing a freezer in my camp to freeze my cranberry relish or brain bombs, do I sell them for like 40k caps? Sell them for 40k caps, and then that saves me camp budget? I'm curious. Is that worth doing? And then the last one, fixed an issue where Nuka World on Tour specific cooked food items did not count towards completion of the Eat a Cooked Meal weekly challenge. I think there was a couple times that I spawned at Nuka World, turned around, picked up a couple things from the vendor, ate a few of them counted, and a couple on the side didn't. I didn't know what was going on, but I think I was still able to get the challenge by consuming other things that were like in my inventory. So it makes sense that there was something wrong with it, and I didn't even know. Alright, we're going to jump on down to general. A few important things here. Fix a case where perk cards could be unequipped when logging in. A dialog box is now shown if any perk cards were unequipped during login. Updated the scrap confirm dialog box to provide more information about the item being scrapped. This includes quantity of the item being scrapped. This also applies to creating items. List if any mods can be learned from scrapping. And the complete item name is now correctly displayed. Addressed an issue where the health and resistances for the Scorchbeast Queen, Ultracite Titan, and Wendigo Colossus / Earl weren't using updated values. I don't know what that means. Does that mean they were supposed to be harder? Were they supposed to be easier? Updated values? I have no idea. We'll jump down to the last couple for here. Fixed an issue where pencils and other narrow items were difficult to pick up. It's like an ongoing joke that when I go into Sugar Grove and I'm at the very end collecting whatever I can off the shelves, I struggle to pick up pencils from there, pick up pens from the desks. So I guess they made the hitbox larger for somebody like me that struggles to pick them up. I don't know. That's good though. Fix an issue where enemies would spawn under the terrain during Heart of the Swamp, preventing completion. That's good that they fixed that. Alright, on to legendary mods. Legendary mods that can be received or learned are now listed when scrapping items. Fixed an issue where charisma, intelligence, and luck legendary mods could not be found on weapons. And then we'll mention legendary mods in the Tinker Bench are now split into groups by star count. I think that's a little bit more efficient. For mutations, we'll call out Empath. Empath had a few things over here. Fixed display issue where the positive effect would be lowered instead of the negative, and the positive effect was not reflecting the strange number bonus. Addressed an issue where the Empath mutations damage reduction for teammates was twice as effective as intended for explosion damage. Addressed an issue with the Empath mutation increase to damage taken would cause twice as much additional explosion damage as expected. So there's a few things here that they're fixing that either would have been helping you or would have been hurting you. Addressed an issue with the Empath mutation increase the damage taken would be affected by the Strange in Numbers perk. Okay. This one mutation has a lot of things that it was impacting. Okay. Addressed an issue where the Empath mutation had a stronger decrease to teammates' damage taken than expected, as if the Strange in Numbers perk was always active regardless of whether Empath user had it equipped or not. Okay. That's... I don't think I have Empath. I feel like if you're an Empath user, you might feel a decrease in survivability in certain ways, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading this a little off, but twice as effective as intended for explosive damage, twice as much additional explosive damage expected. Strange in Numbers perk always working, so like that's like that was an extra buff. You're losing that. You're losing the effectiveness of explosion damage and all that, you know. Well, rip Empath. Alright, we're gonna jump down to Twisted Muscles. Addressed an issue where Twisted Muscles mutation wasn't affected by the Strange in Numbers perk. Addressed an issue where the Twisted Muscles mutation had a much lower than intended chance to cripple enemies, and one where it had no effect for unarmed weapons. Okay, an issue with that. Got it. Eagle Eyes apparently would give you twice the intended benefit from the Strange Numbers perk. I had no idea these things were broken. I feel like I'm using half of these. I don't think I use Eagle Eyes, but I do use Strange Numbers, and I wasn't using Empath. But I feel like something like Empath could probably be good for the raid if you go in with others who maybe also have Empath, or even like, just trying to think of different things we can take advantage of. As I read the notes, I'm like, how can I use this knowledge to just directly dictate my build in ways that I wouldn't have thought of before? I'm excited for this. I'm already getting ahead of myself. I'm trying to jump into the raid before we're even done with the notes. Alright, what else we got? Addressed an issue where the increased hunger and thirst penalty of Speed Demon mutation had no effect. I'm not sure if that's going to impact me or not. I do use Speed Demon. I'm not sure if now I'm going to notice my character getting more hungry, or more often I should say, hungry more often, or let's say thirsty more often. We'll see. We will see. Jumping on down to perks. Life Giver fixed an issue where this perk could regenerate HP. I chose not to use Life Giver. For the amount of points that you can put into Life Giver, I would rather put 1 point into... Oh man, I can't think right now. Solar Powered and whatever the nighttime one was. I'm like, okay, if I put 1 point into each of these, I don't have to put anything into Life Giver and I'll get different benefits. I mean, not the way I was looking for it in terms of health, but now that changes. So I kind of missed the opportunity to regenerate HP off of a card that shouldn't have. Fixed an issue where legendary perks could sometimes award less special than expected when joining a server. Addressed an issue where the hack and slash legendary perk would cause additional damage to the original target rather than only deal that damage to other nearby targets. Noted. Quest, there's a few things here involving Sins of the Father, From Russia with Lev, Tunnel of Love, Robot Repair, Free Range, Tax Evasion, and a couple things related to Scout Badge completions and Hornwright Estate related quests. Feel free to check that out. Seasons, we'll mention that the stone oven cooking station can now be used again. Bon appetit, it says. For UI, fixed an issue where player nameplates were no longer showing above their heads, so now we can see player names, and just in time because we'll have player titles, and we can display our player titles right above our characters' heads. I'm curious to see if, again, I could utilize something similar to Diablo, so we'll have to wait and see. Weapons and armors. Civil Unrest and Bunker Buster no longer incorrectly display. Where are we at here? No longer display as a 5-star legendary weapon. Added item tags for improvised weapons and a few other things here. I find it funny, the 5-star. Now that we have 4 stars and the Civil Unrest and a Bunker Buster were shown incorrectly. Once upon a time, if you had, let's say, the one blade, if you had the Sacrificial Blade or something like, I can't remember now, but you could, that was a 4-star way back in the day. Then they had patched certain things like that. I think there was even like mods on fixers and combat rifles that might have shown an extra star. And it's crazy to think that back then it's like, oh look, I got a 4-star. Well, 4 stars exist, and now they're fixing these weapons that are shown as 5 stars. It's almost like a foreshadowing that maybe 5 stars in the future will exist. I don't know. Maybe that's too optimistic. We'll mention the Gatling Plasma now deals split damage. We addressed an issue where shotgun durability was much higher than expected as a result of an earlier change. Addressed an issue where weapons other than shotguns could be affected by the Enforcer perk. So now I don't know if like a pepper shaker can't use Enforcer anymore. We're gonna have to test that out. Addressed an issue where NPCs using laser rifles would occasionally deal unexpectedly high damage, basically just melting you. We'll mention fixed an issue with jetpacks not working after exiting power armor. Down to a weapon and armor mods. We'll focus on the Gatling Plasma. Gatling Plasma had a few things added to it, saying new mod plans added or tradable, updated beam splitter to work similar to other splitter mods, and then it goes through and talks about that. Same thing with the flamer nozzle, the accelerated nozzle, the gamma wave emitter, calibrated capacitor, large core receptacle, stinging core receptacle, and the swift core receptacle. Different options, all now added. Fixed an issue where Gatling Plasma mods did not drop from government aid drops in the forest, and a couple other things there. And that basically wraps up everything we got here. The additional page of notes, the improvements, the fixes. I feel like the true lump of what we're really looking for was shown in the beginning portion of this, but it's good to see the different things that have been adjusted, what's going on in the background, little things we might not have noticed, some things that we've maybe been hoping for a fix for a bit, and even things like the player names not being displayed above our heads it's just been disorienting for a little bit. So I'm happy that we're finally looking at that being fixed. So I do hope you found these patch notes informative, kind of going through them. I try not to just read line for line, but give a little bit of insight, a little bit of perspective, and highlight some of the things that I feel are going to impact impact us the most, and not even just myself, but I know just based off of different people in our community playing the game and what our extended communities are jumping into and how they're checking out certain content. I think it's always good to start the conversation, look through these notes, kind of break them apart a little bit and see what it means going forward with the game. But I gotta get into Appalachia, I got a build to work on so I can check out the Gleaming Depths as soon as I can with the community. Thank you for checking the video out. Say keep an eye out for more videos, and I'll see you guys in Appalachia. Take it easy, everybody.